All right, welcome to another episode of LogiCast. My name is Blankakong, and I'm joined by Gunner Eos today. It's a two-man
Hello.
show. Today we're going to be discussing an article found on Destructoid, and it basically talks about a ghostwriter AI tool called First Draft that's going to generate NPC dialogue for Ubisoft titles like Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and the like. Um, Basically, this is just gonna help like Ubisoft save money on having to pay writers, proofreaders, editors to kind of make like the world dialogue, like the dialogue you would hear like just walking NPCs say. Um, I'm sure that they'll still have like writers actually write out major quest lines and side quests and things like that. But just like the general banter that you would hear in the world will be generated by this Ghostwriter AI. And I don't know. This is kind of, I think, is a good thing, but also can become very bad very quickly.
Mm.
And so I figured let's talk about that and speculate as to what this means for the future of gaming. I have more thoughts, but I'll pass it on to you, and you let me know what your first like
Yeah.
initial thoughts are.
All right. So, yeah, when I read the article and I thought about it, I was just like, I could see both sides of it as just the player, the person that receives the end product. I've played a lot of Ubisoft games and I've heard a lot of their NPC dialogue that is not used by AI, and hey, feel how you're going to feel. I didn't It could have been from AI, and I wouldn't have really known the difference. A lot of NPC dialogue is just like very forgettable. Very like sometimes it doesn't even register with me unless you're an NPC involved in a quest. Like I don't really pay attention to what NPC Sally said to NPC Joe. Like they could be having a riveting conversation. And it's just like, well, the mission marker says I gotta go that way, so you guys keep on keeping on. So I can see where, from like I guess to streamline the production, because these AAA games, they take at the stage we're in now, they take years to develop, decades almost. We're getting to the point with
Yeah,
some of these games. So yeah, I can see why they would want to use AI to kind of write out the filler dialogue for NPCs, and I could see it. I could see it working because it's just NPC dialogue. But like most things, I can see the other side of it where if it's one day it's NPC dialogue, the next day it's character dialogue, the next day it's dialogue out of cutscenes, and then it goes to the whole game's done via AI. And that means people lose jobs, careers no longer exist because we could just tell chat gpt or something to write the storyboard for a video game based in the middle ages with ray guns, and it'll find something to write about it. So I see the other side, but this is Ubisoft we're talking about, so yeah, expect AI to be writing the dialogue, probably for the main character soon enough.
yeah. So I was you kind of hit on like what I was kind of leaning toward, where if this was like some other companies, I might be a little more optimistic, but it's Ubisoft and they have a track record of making very cookie cutter games and being
Nah.
okay with that. And that's fine because there's an audience for that and there are people who like those games. Um, so, there's a market for it. So while I'm a hater for sure, I just simply don't consume. Right, I don't buy
No,
Ubisoft
yeah,
games.
yeah.
I haven't. Not that I'm like boycotting them. I just they haven't made anything that like has intrigued me, and like I can't remember the last Ubisoft game that I was like interested in. Well, I can. They canceled it. The Prince of Persia remake, or the Prince of
Oh,
Persia remaster that was supposed to happen last year or 2 years ago or whatever. They canceled it. So That was about the only thing I was interested in. Naturally, they cancel it. But yeah, this is kind of par for the course for these guys. Like, they're always looking for a way to kind of like, I think, find shortcuts to kind of pump out more content or
Yeah,
find like
yeah.
low hanging fruit ways to make more money. Which I get it. Like, you know, a lot of companies operate that way. So I don't blame them. I think it can be a very good thing. Like, to have certain things automated means you can have more focus on other things, like, you know, gameplay and game design,
Whoa, wild
right?
comments,
But
hot takes.
I don't think that's what's going to happen. I think they're just going to kind of rest on their laurels and go, okay, well, what else can this AI thing do, right? And can the AI generate some character concept art? Can the AI, you know, or can we develop AI to generate, you know, a string of quests or whatever, like whatever that looks like. And if they can just have the AI just fucking develop basically most of the game, they might just do that and just fire artists, writers,
Yep.
modelers, and just be like, yeah, the AI will just do it. And then,
And they'll just claim we're at the cutting edge of technology, and they'll try and spin it to make it look like it's a good thing.
yeah, and some people will accept it for what it is and they'll continue to consume because, I mean, we see it happen. And I'm not trying to bash anybody who plays sports games, but like, or modern sports games, but y'all sports players tend to get the same shit every year, and you guys consume just the same every year. And I get it. They're the only game in town. Like, there's only one company that makes football games. There's only one company that makes basketball games. So like, if you want to stay relevant, you kind of have to consume, and that sucks. This is why monopolies are bad. Um,
Yeah.
you know, so I think Ubisoft's already like a lot of their Assassin's Creed games and their Watchdog games and like all these games are kind of like, all right, it's the same thing with like a different coat of paint, and it
Bro,
does
like
well. So
yeah, like their new Far Cry. I played. I jumped into Far Cry super late. I jumped into Far Cry on Far Cry 4. I played it and I liked it. And I played Far Cry 5 and I was like, this is just Far Cry 4 just set in America. And then Far Cry 6 came out and I didn't immediately get. I looked at stuff and I'm like, bro, this is just Far Cry 5, which was Far Cry 4, just set in a different part of the world, and now you have loot tables. So you're very correct about their gains being the same. And I think this is kind of a side effect, or I guess a causation of the type of games that Ubisoft makes. These big open world games. You got to fill this world with what? You got to fill it with people. So, and these, if you have like a whole city, like in an Assassin's Creed game, for example, and you want to make it feel alive, these NPCs in your giant city are going to have to talk. That's a lot of excess dialogue that has to get created for just the assassin walking by a group of people. So yeah, it's just a product of the type of games you make. So the reason I bring this up is because I've been playing the Tales and Symphonia remake on the Nintendo Switch, and
mhm.
those are two different games. One's a action game, open world game. One's an RPG, but they both have NPCs. So that's where I'm getting with this. Now in Symphonia, obviously they didn't have the manpower back on the GameCube to make these sprawling cities. So they had smaller cities, smaller set pieces with NPCs in it to kind of make it simulate a small town. So because there were less NPCs in that town, their dialogue felt more impactful, right? Their dialogue was actually used as hints for the player. They would give suggestions on where to go, or some would be like, "Oh man, when this bee would sting me, it would poison me. Next time I go into the forest, I should bring antidotes with me." Like that's
Mhm.
how games like Symphonia use their NPCs. They use it to kind of flesh out the world, add more life to the world, and also provide hints to the player. But you could only really do that when your game has a limited number of NPCs. If I'm playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which was the last Assassin's Creed game I played, if I walk into Athens, for example, that thing is filled with hundreds, thousands maybe of NPCs. You can't have that small, like, kind of curtailed experience when you're supposed to be simulating a giant city. And when I played these games, I really didn't pay attention to a lot of the dialogue the NPCs were saying. I just didn't, because it was just like, oh man, it's the taxes are too high, or this guy's a tyrant. It was just kind of stuff like that, stuff about the world and the game that I was in. But it was just, it became like NPC, it became like AI generated dialogue after a while. So to kind of sum it all up, I just think it's a product of the type of game that is kind of at the forefront of the single player gaming experience right now, which is the big AAA open world games where your cities have to be filled to the brim with NPCs. And when your game is like that, yeah, I can see how someone's going to go, how do I make my life easier? Instead of spending hours writing NPC dialogue, I can have Chat GPT or another program of its ilk do something like that. And then I just make sure that it kind of forms a cohesive, like, semi-realistic conversation that one human would have with another. Like, I see it, because your worlds are huge. You got to fill them with something, because this is the bed you made.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, I think this is where I think is a good thing. It's like, all right, well, this will relieve stress from the team of writers at least, and editors and these other people, because now it's like, okay, well, now we could focus on like the main dialogue and make sure that's more impactful or more interesting or whatever. My fear is, and again, I might be pessimistic and I might be negative, but I think that they'll see this as like, they'll see how much money they save from the salaries that they're not going to pay, I guess low level entry writers, to make this like kind of fluff not DLC, fluff dialogue. And they'll go, well, what else can we shave, right? I feel like that's where it's going to go. That's where it's going to lead to.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think it will too. Yeah.
And that's where it sucks. That's where it's, because think about, like, if we look back on, we'll do pre LA Noire, pre Last of Us action adventure games. Let me think of some examples. So like Devil May Cry, Ninja Gaiden, I don't know, the older Resident Evil games. Those games, while their animations weren't top tier and they weren't always great,
yeah,
but they were passable, they were fine and charming, to some degree. Sometimes they had wacky animations that was just like, look at this face in this particular scene or whatever. Those games were fine. Then you introduce LA Noire and The Last of Us, and now everything has to be mocapped. Everything's mocapped. Everything, and the facial expressions and all that. And I think at the time, I remember seeing like the videos talking about it and all that, and I'm like, wow, that's really cool. Like, you imagine what game is going to be in like 10, 15 years, and here we are 10, 15 years later, and I'm just kind of like, can we go back to gameplay? Like, can we go back to like that being the focus and not the character's facial expression or the hair, the hair on this character and how it flows and the fucking sweat particles? Like, it might add to the visual consumption of the product, but like, it doesn't add to the actual entertainment value, at least not for me.
I mean, it helps justify your $500 console or your $500 GPU.
Yeah. But it doesn't make it funner. It doesn't make it more entertaining for me. I'm more of an old school player, I guess.
No, I
in
get
that
you.
respect.
Sure.
So, that was like revolutionary at the time, LA Noire and their facial recognition software or whatever that they use, and then The Last of Us with their mocap performances and all that, and I was like, oh, this is so revolutionary. And it was revolutionary, but then it became the standard. Now it's like every game has to have mocap, every game has to have like this facial recognition mocap as well, and everything needs to be like super cinematic and all this, and it's like, can we get I think the game that does it the best as far as balancing the two is like the latest God of War game. I think they do it the best. where
Yeah, I
it's
could
like
agree with that. Yeah.
it's still a game, but it's still like a cinematic experience. And so like you could get both. Like you could ignore all the cinematics and just kind of play the game for what it is, or you can play on easy mode, barely play the game, and enjoy it for the cinematics. So I think they struck a really good balance. Even though I haven't personally played Ragnarok, and I'm not interested in playing it honestly, only because I saw Esoteric play it on stream, so I saw the whole game in its entirety pretty much, and I'm just like, meh. I think I'm good. Like just me watching him play was enough of an experience. Um,
Mm. I mean, yeah, it looks like a fine game, but yeah, I kind of
yeah,
feel the same way. Like whenever I get the PlayStation 5, I'll get the enhanced God edition, get all the DLC for a decent price, and it's just like, okay, cool, now I'll play it. But like
right.
you bring up God of War, which is a good point, but and that also had zones like in Valhalla and whatnot where it had NPCs talking. Would some of those, or maybe all of those NPCs having AI generated dialogue, would that have changed the overall experience from what
I
you
don't think so.
viewed? Okay, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it would have been pretty much the same. Um, so I think again, I think them creating the Ghostwriter AI, I think is a good thing because if they're successful, I mean, this is a thing that they can sell to other game companies, right? Other companies that make open world games. So it'll be good. It's a good stream of revenue for them for that reason, but also for them for their own projects. So I think it's good. I'm just afraid of what it'll become. Same thing with like we'll look at mobile games. Like when mobile games were first kind of being a thing, I was like, oh, this is cool. You play games on your phone, Flappy Bird, whatever.
Ah, yeah, right.
Cool, right? And then now it's become this like giant blob monster that just wants to absorb everything and give nothing. And it's like, ugh, great. Um, so that's kind of why I'm like
So,
on the
no,
fence
I
about
get
this
it.
whole thing.
I get it. I get it. But I think it's one of those things where the genie's been released, like Pandora's box has been opened. Because it's not just, there's a whole big AI conversation going on now. There's like, people don't like AI art. Like, if you go to Twitter, I mean, it's Twitter, so I know, right? But if you go there and show off AI art, people will try to fucking have you airstriked from a predator drone. Like, they're very vicious against AI art because sometimes it comes out really well. Like, I've seen a lot of AI art, and it's just like, that's really cool. And I get it though. I get if I was an artist and that's how I earned my keep, right? That's my career, and then all of a sudden, you tell me that this machine can generate a warrior in knight armor in 10 minutes, while it takes me maybe multiple days to do the same thing. Yeah, I'm gonna be like, well, that's a bit unfair, right?
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, like it's out there, right? It's just being developed, and some people are doing it out of genuine curiosity to see how far we can take the technology, and there are some people, like with everything in the world, that are doing it for a profit reason, right? How can I squeeze my pennies and my dimes, get rid of employees that are now becoming less and less useful and more obsolete, and how can I make my paycheck bigger? Like, you're going to have those two camps, but I think AI is now out in the open, and you have to kind of learn how to work with it and like kind of separate, like set the boundaries where AI goes too far. And that's going to be a whole new thing in like the next coming years. That's going to be a big thing, right? You already have like AI art winning art competitions, and people are trying to say, is that a justifiable thing? Is that cheating? Is that real art? So like these things, conversations, and these things are already happening. It's just now we're seeing it seep into the video game industry,
Yeah.
which I think anybody with half a brain cell could have told you that these game develop maybe not the developers, but the suits in charge of these game companies were going to grasp the concept of AI and go, how can we make that make us make more money?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to kind of stray away from the gaming industry thing, just talk about something a little more general, a little more real world. Um, we're seeing it happen in like in brick and mortar stores and pharmacies and places like or restaurants where you have self checkout or you have these kiosks that you order on instead of dealing with a
Yeah,
cashier,
yeah,
right? So like that's kind of like the equivalent where it's like, well, we're kind of eliminating jobs and kind of just kind of having these robots essentially do the work for them, or for the company that is. Um, and I'm sure that saves them. I mean, there's money involved, there's investments involved in that, right? You have to do maintenance on the machines and like improve the UI. Like there's always money that's going to be
yeah,
poured into it,
yeah.
but you can guarantee a certain level of performance from a machine
I mean, and
versus a human,
you eliminate a paycheck right there. It's like I don't have to pay the machine,
right?
whereas I have to pay the employee. So if I have 4 self checkout kiosks, those are 4 employees that I no longer have to employ.
Right. Not to mention all the other expenses that come with having an employee, like taxes and healthcare and all this other stuff.
Yep.
That's all out the window too. There's no healthcare with a machine. So I get from a business standpoint, I get it. I think it makes the most sense if you want to maximize your profits and maximize your bottom line. I understand that. I'm not unaware of that. It's just I don't like it. So
No, I get it too. Yeah, I don't want to make it come off for like anybody listening that I'm like, oh, more AI. I want my entire game made by AI. No, I think I think giving this much to AI is. I'll just say most of us have seen Terminator. Okay, I'm just going to leave it at that. If you're old
yeah,
enough, you've seen it. But
Skynet,
that's
it
yeah, that's a
happened.
different conversation. But if we're talking about from an artistic point of view, I think there is something that a human being can create, whether it's through speechcraft or whether it's through art, that a machine just can't replicate. It's just impossible for it because, you know, whether you're, you know, religious or not, there's a soul, if you call it that, or just something within a human being that that like can manifest itself in the arts that a machine can never touch. Like it could do surface level stuff, but it can't like it can't create the heart of something.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's why we have that's why we have so many different kinds of like media. I was gonna say video games, but like it's not. It doesn't stop at video games. We talk about books and music and film and all these other areas. Like there's good films and bad films, right? And there are really creative films and really uncreative films. And creativity comes from the human mind and the human, just human intuition and human experience. Like that's where
Yeah.
art comes from. And machines can't, at least not yet, until we get fucking advanced cyborgs or some shit. Machines, as far as we know, can't do that. They can take what they know and then kind of have all the fundamentals and the techniques down because it's all technical, right? But it's like, yeah, but where's the soul? Where? And
Right. Yeah.
I agree with you. However, to be fair, a lot of the Ubisoft games lack soul anyway, and these are people making these games.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah,
does it
I'm
really
yeah, like
change?
when you bring it back to the culprit, which is Ubisoft, and you look at their suite of games up until this point. I mean, after a certain time period, you go, is there any soul in here that isn't nickel and dimed? Like, do I have to buy the soul DLC for $10? Like,
Only
I,
comes with the battle pass, and you got to level it up.
yeah, my bad, my bad. I'll buy the tiers. I get you.
Yeah,
Um, but like, I go back to my point of like AI's out there, it's accessible, it's becoming more accessible to more people, and this was only a matter of time. I mean, it's going to come down to like the individuals within these companies to kind of like this might sound a little harsh to kind of like justify why there needs to be a human element when creating these games to kind of just like tell the suits or explain to them, which I know speaking to corpos is like you're better off, you're probably more able to draw blood from a stone. I get it, but you have to try to express upon them that people can tell when something is made by AI because, like we just said, it lacks soul. It's you can tell it's just machine crafted, and you have to try to convince the suits that you still need the human element, or your game is just going to be literally a sanitized, homogenous mess, and it's gonna please no one, and your game is gonna bomb because of it. So it's gonna have to be the ground floor employees. It's gonna have to be the development heads, the heads of these studios, the heads of these development teams to kind of show why you can't leave everything to AI. But there can I think there is a place for AI just like as a
Yeah.
tool. Like in the toolbox, you have this as an option.
Yeah,
And
to do monotonous
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
task that's like like I think this person's resources are better used in this department. I get that, and I'm okay with it. I'm okay with that. Tools are good. Tools are what separates us from the animals.
Hmm.
However, we also don't want to as a species, we don't want to like kind of make ourselves obsolete, because I feel like that's what we're headed towards. Like we're headed toward
Yeah.
this like future of like everything's robotic, and humans don't need to exist. It's, and I don't mean to like bring outside stuff, but like I hear stuff about like having like um a machine womb where you can like have, you could
Oh
just
yeah, I've
have
heard of
kids,
yeah.
you
That's
know,
some wild
have
stuff, some
yeah, like it's
Matrix
some
stuff.
crazy like I'm reading, I'm like, this is real. Like I'm not reading a science fiction novel right now. Like this is kind of crazy. And not to get too outside of the gaming space, but this is why I'm worried, right? Is I see shit like that and I'm like, that's crazy. Why? I just want to play Mega Man. Like just give me a game, you know. What was I gonna
No,
say?
I get it.
Go ahead, because I kind of lost my train of thought there with the machine babies.
I get it. It's humans have a way of kind of putting convenience over ourselves, right? It's like, oh, it's more convenient, right? Like, it's convenient. I don't have to sweep the floor anymore. I can get the stupid little robot to do it. But it's just like it's a mundane task that you're passing off to an automated device, and the more and more you do that, it's going to get to the point where then what's the point of you? And
Yeah,
I get it. There's like a whole team of people that come together to make any video game, whether it's a large scale, mid tier, or an indie game. Triple A, double A, or indie, it doesn't matter. So yeah, I can see the worry for AI, the worry for people's jobs, but I have to keep going. It's like it's out there, man. It's out in the wild, and these corpos, these big, the suits that sit in the 400th floor of these game of Capcom and Square Enix and the like. They're like, hey, can that make me more money? All right, well, I want to see it in the next game, and then you come back to me and tell me how much money I saved. Like it's gonna happen. We're already seeing it happen.
yeah. And what's next, right? This is what I was gonna bring up. Like, I'm sure anybody listening to this, you've seen them by now. The president AI generated conversations or
Oh man, those
whatever,
I
which are
do like those
hilarious.
though.
I like them. They're funny, but who's to say that as time passes and these technologies get more, progress and get better, that we just don't have AI generated actors and actresses for voiceovers or for even film? Like that's possible at this point, right? Like that can happen.
Yeah, I
That's a
mean,
whole nother industry that goes out the window, and a bunch of other jobs that get lost too.
yeah, because all you have to do is just teach the machine. You just have to feed the machine information, and it's a machine, so it can retain that information and process it faster than the human brain can.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, if we decided to go the whole hog and go fully down that route, yeah, I can see in like maybe 10, 20 years an entire feature-length film where the script was written by AI, the scenes were done by AI. If it's an animated film, the animation was done by AI.
Like,
And
I'm sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
no, I was like, and my my white pill conclusion to that is that I could be wrong, but I think if we saw like a feature-length film or a feature-length game made entirely through AI, I'm talking about script, voiceover work, art style, mocap, like the whole 9 yards, you're gonna tell. Like you're gonna tell that it's like, oh, what is this? Like, why are they acting like that? Like the human mind can detect when something is trying to mimic something human, but isn't quite human. That uncanny valley
Hmm.
feeling that humans get. So I think that would happen. But to take the white pill away and give you the black pill now, you feed the AI model a little bit more, and I think it could overcome it.
Yeah, I think those lines can be blurred because I listen. I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist right now. I get it, but come on, like, are we gonna really deny that? Like, let's say, all right, let's use actors for example, right? The movie industry. I can remember a time, okay, and this is the boomers talking now, where the movies you didn't see a movie necessarily because of the plot. You saw the movie because there was a star attached to the movie. So it's like, oh,
Oh
I'm going to
yeah,
see the new Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. I'm going to see the new Bruce Willis movie. I'm going to see the new Sylvester Stallone movie. I'm going to see whatever it is, right? And it was stars, right? Or the new Will Smith movie, whatever. Now we're seeing that less and less, and it's more about like this cinematic universe, blah blah blah. Who's to say that? Let's use Bruce Willis for example, right? Bruce Willis, as far as I know, he's kind of like retired because he has like dementia, and
yeah. He
he was
has
like being
yeah,
taken advantage of, right, and being put in
yeah.
films that he wouldn't do otherwise. Um, but let's say they use the Bruce Willis. There's enough Bruce Willis like source material out there to generate Bruce Willis AI for sure, right? Who's to say that his likeness and his personality won't be monetized in the future past his death for future films in an AI form? Like that could happen,
I
right?
mean, it's not to that extent, but it's
No?
already. Well, I mean, not to that extent yet. But I was gonna say it's already kind of happening. Just not. It just requires a person to still be in the scene. So what I'm saying, like the first season of Mandalorian, for those who watch it, near the final season, was it season two? It was season two. Sorry, the season two of Mandalorian. At the end, they had like a big reveal where they showed Luke Skywalker, and they used like deep fake technology, kind of like AI generated technology, to kind of put young Mark Hamill's face on an actor. So it wasn't Mark Hamill acting it, and obviously he's not that young anymore, but it was
Right.
his face kind of AI masked over another actor. And they did it with Robert Downey in the Iron Man films, where they had like or the Avengers films where they had flashbacks and they had to make him young. Like
Yeah.
you said, like the Bruce Willis thing. That's how they did it. That's how they like made it look reasonable. They found a bunch of clips of Robert Downey from like older movies when he was younger and just got it from different angles and just compiled it all together to the point where they were able to put his younger face on him and it looked believable enough from multiple
That's
angles.
scary, man. That this
So
is this
it's
we all saw Age of Ultron. Okay, this is a problem, man. This is this. I don't.
so
Go
like
ahead.
that's kind of happened already. Like, and I don't see. I like again. It's the whole Pandora's box thing. I don't see them stopping. They've already done it. It's already proven that it can like please a general audience, and that's all these big corporations want. I need that mass market, baby. Like I need everybody. I don't care about the niche market. So if you can fool or you can convince a bunch of people that it's like, oh wow, yeah, that'd be cool. I'd like to see a young Arnold in Terminator 26. Like they could do that. like, and I don't know the legality of like using a potentially deceased actor or actress. I don't know that maybe that's like new law for the lawyers of the.
No, for sure.
But yeah, it's you talk about it, but it's kind of already being done.
I don't like this timeline, man. Can we go back to the '90s, man? Like, things were so much better then. Oh man. Anyway, back to let's stick to the topic AI in video games. But like, I bring that up really because the people who voice acted in God of War, for example, or Last of Us or whatever, these jobs could be replaced. And I don't know, man. As much as I shit on like cinematic games because I want gameplay in my games, those performances are incredible. You know, these actors and actresses do, for the most part, do an amazing job at portraying
That's
the
why they
characters and the
written. Yeah,
situations.
that's why they win
So
awards.
yeah, so like kudos to them, and I think that kind of game has its place in the market. Obviously, with how successful they've been, I don't want them to go away, but I just what I do want is I want video games to just be video games. Not everything needs to be a cinematic experience. But I said this in past podcasts, so I'm not gonna like beat a dead horse.
Yeah, but I mean,
Um,
unfortunately, because everything has to be a cinematic, not well, a lot of modern AAA games, they're all in. Like the chips are all in on big, bombastic, huge budgeted cinematic experiences. That just like is perfect fodder to make things quote unquote easier with AI. Like it's just perfect fodder for that.
leave it to Ubisoft to be like the fucking catalyst to this
Bro, they're the
man.
leaders in like bad ideas. They had they tried the NFT shit with the fucking oh, what's that military game that they have?
Military game. Ubisoft?
Was it Ubisoft? What? Oh my god, Wild Hunt? Ghost Recon? That's not Ubisoft?
Oh yeah, that is Ubisoft.
Yeah,
Oh
they
shit,
had
I
the
forgot about that
NFT
game.
fucking NFT guns that fucking went nowhere. Like they're the leading. They lead the charge in like, oh, this is the new big thing. Put it in our game.
Ugh,
So I don't.
jeez.
I think they like people dunk on EA, and justifiably enough. But Ubisoft, man, I don't know. They're always trying to get the one over on everybody.
Yeah. All right. So in the article, let's kind of get back on task here. I kind of got sidetracked there. Apologies. But yeah. Alana Pierce, the one of the writers for God of War Ragnarok, she's also like an internet personality. She responded to the news, and she says, as a writer, having to edit AI generated scripts dialogue sounds far more time consuming than just writing my own temp lines. I would far prefer AAA studios use whatever budget it costs to make tools like this instead of hiring more writers. Which again, I don't disagree with this. I think you want monotonous tasks to kind of just go to, if you could automate it, go for it. But I just don't want that to take over. In addition to that, some guy named Corey Balrog, who was like director for God of War, kind of responded to it with like a meme of Kratos being like, "No, bad idea. Oh, I guess I'll be quiet." Kind of gif of Kratos, right? Um, and I kind of agree with that. It's like I don't. It's this. I think is a good idea on paper, but in practice, it might evolve into something that might hurt the industry, or not even hurt the industry, but hurt the quality of the product. In this case, the video games. So yeah,
Yep.
that's in the article. That'll be linked in the description if you guys want to look at it.
I mean, and another good line, which I think we both mentioned in our own ways, saying that admittedly impressive breakthroughs in AI are clearly set to be fully appreciated by bigger companies in gaming, films, comic, and music. So this is kind of proliferating all entertainment medium. it's not just games, but the subject is about a game, but it's hitting everything. And other forms of entertainment as a way to make faster, cheaper, and easier content to feed the masses. Now that sounds, oh man, that sounds depressing, because what it ends up becoming is just bland content. It's just
It becomes
content.
junk food. There's no quality content doesn't exist anymore. It'll just
Right.
be junk food content.
There'd be no such thing as like, oh, you remember The Thing and its crazy fucking practical effects. You remember Terminator and how they like made this cool robot work. Like, you don't get any of that anymore. You'll just get, oh, you remember Ninja Game 79 where the ninja threw the flaming boomerang? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, I know it's the same thing as Ninja Game 76, but I mean, 79, he was dressed in red, so that's kind of my favorite one.
Yeah.
We're going to end up like that, and it's just like, what is it? It's just an assembly line. It's an assembly line of content, and you eat it, and you go, it was okay. Oh, the new one's here. Eat it. Oh, it was okay. Oh, the new one's here. Like, uh, somebody has to kind of like get out in front of it, and I think again it's going to be the ground floor people to try to fight back at that, or you kind of do what indie games are doing. You just kind of do your own thing, and the people that want to see something built with heart and love and like care for the property, whether it's in an established IP or a brand new one, they'll show up and they will gladly give you their money for your products. Do I want to live in a world where you know I have to go to specialty shops, quote unquote, for everything? No, not really, because then you deal with another bottleneck of this is the only place I can find this, so I have to kind of deal with their barrier to entry, whether that be
Right.
price or whatnot. And it's like, but that's all you have when everything just becomes homogenous corporate soup. So it's when you thought it couldn't get worse, AI comes in and says, "Hold my beer."
Yeah. Yeah, because I thought gaming hit an all-time low with just, I don't know, with just the way things are right now. It's like the battle royale stuff and season pass this and battle pass that and VC coins and EA making more money off of FUT points than they do off the FIFA games themselves, which is like insanity to me. It's like shit like that. I was like, oh my god, what is this?
Right, fucking
What is this coming to, man?
Forspoken supposedly having a
$100 million budget, which
budget,
is insane. Talk about a
and
soulless game. That game was
that
fucking
game,
AI generated. 100%. Yeah, that's a great bring up. That's a great bring up. Because if we want to know what AI generated games are going to look like, that's what they're going to be. Fucking Forspoken. 100%. 100%. Jesus Christ.
and
The
the
future
and
is
the
bleak.
the great thing for the suits is that it won't cost $100 million to
Nope.
make.
Nope.
It'll cost half of that, if that.
Not even. Not even. They'll have to hire a few programmers to just make sure the program's running right, test it, whatever. Dude, they'll pump out games. Oh, it'll be a dream for them because it's like, oh, we can get a game out 4 times a year. Like we can have a game every 4 months, every quarter. We'll have a new title, right? And then the development cycles just get smaller and smaller.
Right, bro. Because while they have one supercomputer doing Forspoken 2, they got another supercomputer doing Forspoken
Spoken
3.
3. Yeah. Jesus Christ. And like what's sad
So
is like they're gonna be normies and like just people unaware out there who are just gonna consume it. They're just gonna take it and be like, yep, okay.
yeah, because it's all about, I don't want to be the weird guy that's not in the clique, not in the know. I don't want to be the guy that's not playing the hot new thing. So, okay, well, let me not be that guy. Here's $70. Yeah, I'll take your fucking bland fucking soup, please. Yes. Oh, it's so good. I love it. It's the best thing I've ever tasted.
As he looks around to make sure that everybody else likes it, it's like, okay, yeah, okay, so good.
Yeah.
It's like,
You have the one guy. It's like,
bro.
no, I don't like it so much. Oh, he's horrible. He's got no taste. He's a bigot. He's whatever. We'll go down the
The
pre-written list of
list.
bad things
Yeah.
that you are.
Or the AI generated list.
No, yeah, we'll fucking generate the hate list while we're at it. And it's just
Oh
like,
man.
look, I hate it. The more we talk about it, the more depressing it gets. But unfortunately, like, it's out there now, man. It's out there. It's
Yeah.
something that game developers, not and all like entertainment media, that you're all gonna have to deal with that, and you're gonna have to learn how to kind of like corral it and contain it, and just use it as a tool, and not just let it run rampant and just spread like wildfire. Because if like the people that are in the space, the creative space, if they don't do it, then other people who don't really care and just see dollar signs, they're just going to use it willy-nilly. Like they're going to just use it and not care who gets hurt. And we're going to end up in the dystopian fucking gray world from fucking Fairy Odd Parents. It was a great episode. For anybody who knows what I'm talking about, that's the gray blob future that we're all heading to. So just it's out there. You can't really
Yeah.
contain it. You can't throw it away because it's out there. You just got to learn how to use it when it's applicable, and just put your foot down when it's like, no, 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 no. That's too far. We still need X number of people to make our game.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's the way. Maybe you put a clause in development contracts where it's like you have to have a certain amount of artists, you have a certain amount of writers to ensure the integrity of the quality of the game or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the way to do it. I don't know.
I mean, I'm kind of seeing it with some of the AI art. Like you see a lot of places that will have that little disclaimer under it saying this image was generated using AI, to kind of let the general public know, like, oh, okay, so this wasn't drawn by a person, it was made by AI. Okay, and like then you, the consumer, the customer, you can do with that information what you will. But I see that with AI art now. Like people are being told this was not made by a person, this was made by AI. And it's up to you, the individual, whether you want to support a product now knowing that some of the art was done via AI.
Yeah.
So it's happening. I think I don't want it to come from like governments or corporations. The legislation, it has to come from. It's gonna sound a little commie. It has to come from the people, right?
The
You know,
people. Yeah.
you-
Yeah, you're right.
like this is something that's entering your space. We over here at Logical Gamers are big fans of gatekeeping. Gatekeep that AI, man. Gatekeep it. Try your best, because don't let it run through your fandom. Don't let it run through your profession, or it will run through it.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just thinking like
Nah, it's a
just
lot, and a lot of it is kind of bleak if you dig too hard into
yeah,
it.
it gets real black pill quick. Um, that's partially my fault, right? Because I started speculating in other industries, knowing that I would just be annoyed at the end of that, at the end of this whole thing. But here we are. But it's like I'll bring this up. So like I collect a lot of things. I collect trading cards for some different games. I collect like minifigures like amiibos or Monster Hunter miniatures, things like that. And I've always enjoyed it. I also have like larger statues as well.
Mm.
And recently, you got me into. Well,
Boy,
not you. You didn't get me into it per se. I kind of you influenced me. You didn't like force it on me. Like you
we
built this blah
applied
blah.
we applied some of that old peer pressure.
Just a little bit, but I
That's
grew interested
subliminal
in
marketing.
yes, into model kit building, which is something I've always like thought of. Like, it looks kind of cool, and I decided, fuck it. Like, a friend of mine, he was near a shop and he showed me some pictures of some model kits, and I had some that I bought super cheap because they were on clearance, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. Like, I'll get into the hobby at some point. I had them kind of sitting there and just a month ago or so, I decided, you know what, we're gonna try. We're gonna take a day and we're just gonna do it, and we'll see what happens. And I've built a few now, under 10, right? But it is satisfying, like putting something together, even though the result really at the end of the day is the same as though if you had just bought an action figure that had the same level of articulation. It's like it's the same
Yeah.
thing technically, but the process of actually building it is, I don't know, it's fulfilling, it's interesting, it's fun, um, and the figure does mean more because it's like, well, I have this, like, I spent 4 hours with it, so instead of me just buying it, kind of posing it, and forgetting about it. Not to take
Yeah.
away from the other stuff that I've collected, because I still have a bunch of, you know, minifigures and statues that I really like looking at, but it's something different with the model kits and
There's
the Gunpla
something about
building.
seeing, yeah, there's something about seeing like the box. When you open the box, it's just a bunch of sheets of plastic, already
Hmm.
pre-molded plastic, and seeing that as like your start point, and then however long it takes you to complete it, you see your end point and you see what it becomes, and you know
Yeah,
that you were responsible for that. You didn't build it from scratch, as in like you molded the plastic, you made the molds, right? You
right,
didn't do that, but you took it from this to this, and depending on how much you customize it, that becomes more and more like your own.
right.
So there is something like I guess it's fulfilling, soul fulfilling about that. Even it's like a tiny slice of, in the grand scheme of things, insignificant nothing.
Hmm.
um it means something to you because kind of, again, like we said, you put your heart and soul into building this thing, into customizing this thing.
Yeah, and the reason why I bring that up, because that's not relative to like the AI conversation. The linking point is the reason why building Gunpla or model kits in general is so interesting and satisfying, at least for me as a beginner. I'm a fucking noob, so please don't come at me. I'm new to it, so please, have mercy on me. But is people? My point is, people need to have purpose. Humans need to have a purpose, and if they don't have a purpose, uh, things can get dangerous. They start to question their existence, and that can turn into something else.
Yeah.
The
Hmm.
human mind is a very powerful thing that can and will betray you if you allow it to. And so the reason why I bring that up is this AI stuff. While I think it is a useful tool, it can become the tool of our very destruction, or the destruction of certain industries at the very least, which is something I don't want to see. So yeah, that's kind of why I bring that up. The whole Gunpla thing is like, it's a recent experience that I can tie to this particular topic, and my uh I don't want to say predictions, but like, so you know, I guess predictions you could call it. My negative predictions for what this could become. Like, people need a purpose. People need, like, even if it's the simplest thing, like if you have a maintenance person and they're really good at cleaning, let them clean. This is my purpose. I come to work, I sweep, and I make sure everything is clean. Right. The moment you replace that guy with a robot, you know,
No,
um,
again, yeah, it can do the same job, but it'll just do the job. It'll do it efficiently, but that's it. It'll just do it efficiently. It won't add its own spin. It won't, it'll do things literally by the numbers. And I mean, is that what you really want at the end of the day, especially with your entertainment, your something that you're supposed to, it's supposed to be a the human soul and the human experience expressing itself. Do you really want to add ones and zeros and just by the book robots to that medium?
I don't think so. I think you're not going to get innovations out the window, right? The moment AI takes over and like it becomes the standard, innovations out the window. You're never going to get anything new again. I mean, even if you like listen to music, for example, like again, boomer again. But like if you listen to music from like the 70s, the 80s, even the 90s, even the early 2000s, like there's a certain level of like, there's still good music today. At least from what I'm not a music like
Oh man, I'm
fucking
even less so.
yeah, like I'm not an expert by no means, but like yeah, like a lot of the songs that come out now are just like auto tune, for example, in music. Like it's just so like, but then when you hear like you see like live performances from like Journey from like 1981 or 1979 or whatever, and it's like raw footage of this guy singing, and like that's his voice. That's not computer generated. There's no auto tune. There's none of that bullshit. No, these are guys playing those instruments live. This is a guy singing live in a crowd with a camera from 1980, and that sound quality is what you're hearing. Like that's real. Like that's the human. That's human art.
Right.
The machine can't create that unless it's copying it, right?
Yeah.
So
And every performance would be different. That's the crazy thing about it.
yeah,
Like because, maybe in one performance he hurt his finger, so he has to play the guitar a little bit differently. Or maybe in one performance he didn't sleep well. So it's like every performance is different, but if you leave it to a machine, it's going to be the same, literally
every
the
single
same
time.
thing. Yep. Yeah.
And to equate it to something, I guess, common that anybody can relate to, food. If you ate the same exact thing 3 times a day, 7 days a week, you would fucking lose your shit. You would kill yourself from boredom. You ever eat something and you're just bored of eating it? It's like, oh, this is
Yeah,
so
yeah.
whack. I'm eating this again. You need spice. That's why we love sugar and salts, because it's that extra umph that we need. And too much of that is bad too. And that's my point. There needs to be a balance. So the AI thing can exist, but we have to make sure it's a balance, kind of like how we balance our diets are supposed to with sugar and salt. Not too much sugar, not too much salt. Just enough to add a little flavor to it, but you don't want to give yourself fucking heart disease or anything like that. So,
Yeah, I
you
think
know,
I think that's the moral of the story. It's just like AI's here to stay. It's up and coming. Excuse me. It's an up and coming market. It's an up and coming thing, and it has and will continue to let me use a diplomatic word, assert its
develop.
presence. Yeah,
Yeah.
assert its presence,
Yeah.
develop within comic books, written literature, paintings, photographs, and in relation to this conversation, video games. And it is up to the people, the humans, at the end of the day, to go, this is what you can do. This is what you can't do. This is what I'm going to use you for. This is what I will not use you for. And again, the suits are going to be suits, right? They want the dollar bill at the end of the day. It's got to be the creatives. It has to be the creative people that kind of like guide this new emergent technology and prevent it from going rampant. So like that, if you get anything from this podcast and the article and this episode, just kind of get that. It's not the end of the world, even though we kind of made it out to be.
Yeah.
It's I think the human spirit has a way of enduring and like being triumphant over these kind of like forces. I don't want to get too fucking out there, but just like I think at the end of the day, we will win out in terms of art and creativity, and you got to learn to use it. But don't hate it, don't fight against it, because it's just gonna make things. It's here to stay. It really is. So just like learn to use it. Don't despise it. Even though some people I know do, and hey, that's your opinion. That's the stance you can take. You have the right to take that stance. I'm not an artist, so I don't know that feeling of creating something like a poem or a piece of work or a piece of art and then seeing a machine do it in 10 minutes. Like I can't relate, but I can just look at the bigger picture and kind of like apply that to this topic.
Well, I'm not an artist anymore. I don't really draw anymore, but like went to art school, and I did draw at one point, and I can tell you that it would be heartbreaker to like know that I spent 10 hours on a piece and to see a fucking computer generate it in like a minute. It's like it would make me question like what am I even doing? Like I need to develop a new skill. Like I can't. So anyway, uh, with all that being said, if you made it this far, thank you. To you, the listener, the viewer. Hope you had some level of enjoyment listening to us fantasy book the Terminator future that we're predicting. Hopefully we're wrong. I hope to God that I'm wrong, but I guess time will tell. But anyway, if you enjoyed the content, leave a like on the video. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Leave a comment down below. Let us know what you think about Skynet. I mean AI generated
The
Ghostwriter dialogue. The future is
future.
here. Subscribe for more content. We produce a podcast every week. We publish on Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern. The article will be referenced in the description, so if you want to read it for yourself, it's a very short article. So, but if you want to read it for yourself, it'll be there for you. Also, we have social media, so we have like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, as well as a Discord that Esoteric runs. He also streams Mr. Esoteric on the main channel, twitch.tv/, Logical Gamers TV. So check him out, give him a follow, and check out his content. He streams 2 times a week, 3 times a week. Sometimes he'll take a week off or whatever, but he streams major AAA titles, party games like Splatoon and Super Smash Brothers, as well as like indie games. He played like Castlevania 4 the other day, so definitely check him out. I also have a Twitch. I stream whenever I have time, which is rarely ever. So you can follow me there, Blankakong on Twitch. The links will be provided for you down below in the description. So thank you again, Gunnar, for a great conversation, and we'll
Thank
catch
you.
you in the next one. Peace.
Till next time.